What's up? It's Dr. William James here, reporting to you live, and I want to have a discussion today regarding the whole Dwayne Wade situation with his son. There's a lot to be said about this discussion. A lot of people have different opinions about it. I have my own opinion about it. But before we have these discussions, I think it's important that we set our emotions to the side and we deal with facts. Because a lot of times when I have these discussions with people, I find them becoming emotional and avoiding the facts. They begin to interpolate. They assume you said something that you didn't literally state. They put words in your mouth and they start defending themselves or their stance against a point you haven't even made. Like, they bring up red herrings, they interpolate, things like that. We don't need to do that. So we can have an open discussion about this. So, Dwayne Wade's son is 12 years old. And his son's name is Zion. His son came out to him as transgender when he was 12. He said, Dad, I don't want to go by the pronouns him, he, guy, boy, whatever. Terms associated with males or boys. And he says, I want to change my name to Zaya and go by she and her. So, things we have to look at. If he stated this at age 12, when did he start thinking this? Why is he thinking this? I've seen transgender and transsexual videos of kids from ages 3 to 12. As early as 3 years old, they have a boy or a girl saying they identify with the opposite gender or the opposite sex. They want to be a different gender, they want to be a different sex. And you got kids 4 or 5 years old, they're changing their identity and they're letting them wear clothes traditionally associated with the opposite sex or gender, however you want to put it, because there is a difference. Transsexual is actually trying to change your sex and get a sex change and get surgery. Transgender doesn't really require surgery, it just goes with gender roles. So let's make sure we're politically correct. So, he's transgender, not transsexual. My whole thing is, first of all, his idea of gender and gender roles goes based off of what he's seen, more closely associated in his household, but what he's seen in society. If he's in a different culture, a different society, he might get a different understanding or different viewpoint of gender roles. So, my whole thing is, why does he have to, he gets his fingernails done and he gets tips and he wears heels and things like that. To me, it shows a bit of conformity for him to feel, I want to be associated with a girl when I do these things. Why can't he just be a boy who gets his fingernails done with tips and all of that, and a boy who wears heels? Why does he then feel the need to be called a girl? Even if a child is different and they are realizing, hey, I don't fit in with boys my age, I do things that are more girly, why does he feel the need to have to change his name? Why does he feel the need to have to be associated with her and she now that he's doing those things. Because he can still do those things, but if he's not transgender, he wouldn't be a member of the LGBTQ. You see what I'm saying? If he was just a boy who you were allowing to be himself at that age, and because he can't go get his nails done on his own, he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have money, he can't buy himself heels. So at some point, you're supporting this and you're aiding it. So why does he have to change his name, his pronouns? Why does he feel that has to be done? How can you explain that? Why does he feel the need to identify as a girl? See, that's a whole different type of discussion. I don't think you just support anything your child wants to do. A kid is still a kid. Their brain still has a lot of growing to do. Your brain grows up until you're 23, 24, 25 years old. Your brain is still growing. At 12 years old, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's going on in your body. You barely started puberty. If you start early, you might start at around 9, 10? Which is the age I'm assuming he's had these thoughts around, because you didn't just come home at 12 and the first time you had these thoughts, you said it. Like, oh, yep, I had these thoughts. I want to identify as a girl. No, this is something that has been going on. And why do you feel that way? A discussion has to be had. When I was growing up and you saw someone doing something that wasn't traditionally associated with that gender, you would say, hey, like I have 1,000 nieces and nephews, and if my 3 or 4-year-old niece said, oh, uncle, I'm a boy, I want to play with something boys don't usually play with. Or if my 3 or 4-year-old nephew said, oh, uncle, I'm a girl, I want to put on a dress and wear heels and play with Barbie dolls, I would sit him down, I'm going to say, no, you're actually a boy. You're a male and you're a boy, and you have an anatomy, you have something that boys have. What's making you say you're a girl? Like, at that age, they're inquisitive, but we know that they don't really know what's going on. So they say certain things, they might be confused. They literally might be confused. You can't just take any little thing at that age and just run with it and say, all right, you're 4 years old, live your truth. Go ahead, be a girl, wear it. Do those things. You might confuse them even more by not having that discussion. And if it's my child, I want to know where they got this information from, where they're thinking of this from. This becomes a deep discussion, because some people who are a part of the LGBTQ community allow this to become a priority over being black. And I was having a discussion with someone about how there is no struggle greater than the black struggle. So just how you can go online and you can see all of these video clips of Dwayne Wade speaking about his transgender son, you can go online and see no video clips of Dwayne Wade talking about black men and women being murdered by police for no reason. There's no clips of it. I searched. I found one video of him at the ESPYs on stage with Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, and LeBron James, and they were doing something to start the ESPYs about, black men being shot by police, and, they're reading something. It's not the same. It wasn't the same passion and genuine feelings behind it as it was when he was talking about supporting his son. And some people think it's on the same playing field, but I disagree. Like I said, being black is something you can't hide. And when you say that, some people think, oh, well, you shouldn't have to hide being a member of the LGBTQ. Notice, I didn't say that. I just said being black is something you cannot hide. When I step outside, I'm a black man. You see me and you associate me with a black man. You cannot look at someone and know their sexual preference. You can't. You can assume, but you can't know. You look at me and you say, that guy is black. I'm going to be racially profiled by my look, by my complexion. When someone sees you, they see your skin complexion and they're going to judge you based off that first. Stop and frisk, when people were being racially profiled, it was based on race and not sexual preference. Historically, the transatlantic slave trade was based off of race and not sexual preference. Being black, the fight for equality and equity supersedes all, because it comes before your gender and it comes before your sexual preference. You can't allow us to be divided by gender and sexual preference. Because just how people differentiate based on sexual preference, we could do that based off gender too. We know that black women don't necessarily have the same experience as black men in society. The glass ceiling is different for them. We know historically they got the right to vote 45 years after black men. Their right to vote didn't come until 1920. Ours was around 1877. So, knowing this, you still have to put being black first. You can't fight for other causes before you fight for the black cause, because we still haven't got rights for that. I don't believe we should be inclusive with fighting for the rights of others before we've gained rights for ourselves. It's a distraction from the rights for ourselves. And sexuality is a way to, or sexual preference is a way to divide the community. And they've been trying to weaponize sexuality for years. Henry Kissinger, former Secretary of State, in 1974, he made a proposal in the Kissinger Report that homosexuality be used in the black community as a form of population control. You can look this up in the Kissinger Report. In 1974. It just so happens that in 1974, that is the year that the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is like the Bible for medicine, they use it for all diagnosis. That is the year where they took homosexuality out of the DSM as a mental illness, as a mental disorder. They took it out in 1974. Now, is that a coincidence? That's something you have to ask yourself. I don't think it is. They've always tried to weaponize that against us. You have to think about when black people do certain things, you can't look at it at face value like with other, like with other races. They made slaves where male slaves, boy slaves, wear dresses to emasculate them, to take away their warrior spirit. There's a slave by the name of Fountain Hughes. He was one of the last living slaves in the United States. He died in 1957. He said that he wore dresses till he was around 16, 17 years old. Now you have to ask yourself, why is that? So when you see a black man in 2020 wearing a dress, you can't look at it the same way you would look at a man of another race wearing a dress. When you see them promoting a black man wearing a dress, you can't just look at it, oh, he's just being himself. He's living in his truth. You can't just look at it that way. You got to wonder why they're doing that. There's another slave who was the last living slave in America, named Sylvester McGee. He died in 1971. He said the same thing. There's interviews with these people. You can look it up. So I get curious when I hear about all of that stuff. Furthermore, proof that they've been trying to weaponize this, in 1994, our U.S. government, our U.S. military, they came up with something called the gay bomb. They made a proposal to spend $7.5 million to create a gay bomb, to drop it. If they dropped it on enemies, the pheromones and all of the chemicals in the bomb would make the enemy start, they will become distracted. They'll start touching each other and stuff like that. In 1994. Now, this was just a proposal and it was theoretical, but why are they even thinking like that? You have to ask yourself. Like, this is something that they were literally thinking about doing. So, once you know that, it puts a different look on things. And they didn't go through with it. It wasn't created or anything like that. But in 2002, they actually submitted it to the National Arts of Sciences to continue to review. And from that, they've been doing different types of chemical warfare studies, such as the Attack Me bomb, which was a bomb where if they drop it, you would suddenly become highly sensitive to the sun and your skin would like start peeling. So that's in 1994. That's 26 years ago. We have made all types of chemical advancements since then, scientific advancements, technological advancements. We're literally advancing every day. If they were thinking of that then, that means they had resources then that would make this possible. What do you think they have now? They have something called the Sting Me bomb, where if it goes, that they were thinking of, where if it goes off, it would draw all types of like wasp and hornets to you and sting you and all types of stuff. So if they're thinking of ways to do this and weaponize sexuality that way, it's clear that there's some type of agenda. If they were thinking of that in 1974, when Henry Kissinger, Secretary of State, said that, and it was specifically for the black community. Because with the Kissinger report, they were targeting lower developing countries, which are predominantly what? Black. So, and they list the countries out so you can look. But we have to stop looking at things at face value and look at the deeper meaning behind it, look at history, and it's not fair. But that's what oppression is. We can't just look at things like, oh, that race does it, that race does it, it's okay for them. Why not for us? Because our history is different. We're still fighting out of oppression. We're still not treated equally. We're still discriminated against in the courts. We're still shot more. We're still arrested more, stopped and frisked more, discriminated when getting jobs, still discriminated when getting bank loans. Everything. We're still oppressed. We're still discriminated against and treated unfairly. We have to stop looking at things on face value and letting things further divide us. We have to still fight the fight that's unified. Black at the top, and then everything else that falls under that umbrella can fall in line. But we have to prioritize black. Then we can talk about gender and sexual preference and everything under black, making sure you get all of your civil rights that you want as a individual. You get all of those. But black has to be priority for black people. So I just wanted to talk about that real quickly. I might put together a PowerPoint presentation to give you this information, but you can look up anything I said. You can play it back, look at any names or dates or anything I said, and look it up yourself. I wanted to just give this real quickly because it's something I'm passionate about. You guys can share the video, like, subscribe, so you see when I talk about this type of content. And remember, let your emotions go aside and think about the facts. I'm out.